What happens when the man who built 5 gyms from scratch decides to mop the floors of his own business and nobody knows who he is? Elias Zimmerman stood in the back of the gym's storage room, tugging on his janitor's jumpsuit. The name stitched over his chest read Leo. His short brown hair had been dyed black, and a pair of old glasses sat low on his nose. He didn't look anything like the clean-cut CEO from the company website, and that was the point. He'd started the gym chain 10 years ago with nothing but a loan, a beat-up van, and a dream. These days, they had 5 locations scattered across the state. He hadn't been to the Southside location in over a year, not since they expanded and hired a district manager to oversee day-to-day stuff. But lately, something felt off. He'd been getting vague complaints, new members quitting after one visit, low staff morale, and some red flags in retention numbers. The district manager, Chase, brushed it off every time. Southside's solid, Chase had said last week, probably just picky members. Elias didn't buy it. So now, here he was posing as a new janitorial hire named Leo. He'd gotten in through a third-party cleaning company the gym used for backup staffing. Nobody at this location had ever met Elias in person. All hiring and training had been handled through corporate and Chase. His plan was simple: mop floors, clean bathrooms, and keep his eyes and ears open. He stepped out into the main gym floor, mop in hand. "Hey, you're the new cleaner," a woman asked, barely glancing up from her front desk computer. "Yeah, Leo. They told me to start today." "Cool," she said without much interest. "Bathrooms need work. One of the trainers said there's a mess in the men's locker room." She didn't introduce herself. By the time he got to the locker room, he'd already noticed a few things. The place didn't feel friendly. Staff weren't greeting members. Music was blasting too loud. And the trainer on the weight floor, a muscular guy in his 30s with a tight black shirt, was pacing like he ran the place. Elias started scrubbing the floor near the showers when he heard it. "Are you serious? That's your starting weight?" the trainer barked. Elias peeked out the locker room doorway. A young guy, maybe early 20s, stood awkwardly near the dumbbells. He looked nervous. New member, first time in a gym, probably. I was just trying to." "Try less talking, more lifting," the trainer snapped. "This isn't a daycare. If you're not gonna commit, don't waste my time." Elias frowned. The kid looked like he was trying not to shrink into the floor. A few feet away, a second trainer, a woman with a ponytail and a calm presence, walked over and whispered something to the guy. The male trainer waved her off and walked away. Elias continued mopping, but he watched everything. The rest of the day confirmed what he feared. The male trainer's name was Brett. Loud, controlling, and constantly belittling new members. He made jokes about their weight, their form, even their clothes. One woman walked out mid-session with tears in her eyes after he muttered something about not being built for fitness. No one stopped him. The front desk woman, her name tag said Jenna, just kept to her phone. The manager, Caleb, didn't leave his office once. Lights flickered in the stretching area and nobody fixed them. A water fountain was out of order, taped over with a ripped sign that said "Deal with it." But one person stood out. The female trainer who tried to comfort the young guy earlier. Her name was Rowan Keller. Elias watched her between mopping. She was patient, encouraging, and always checking in on members, especially the shy or new ones. She even offered to help Elias carry cleaning supplies once. "Hey," she said with a smile, "if you're new here, heads up, this place can be a little rough. Just keep your head down, okay?" Elias nodded. "Thanks, I appreciate that." By the time the gym closed at 10, Elias was exhausted. His back ached. He'd cleaned 3 toilets, mopped every inch of the floor, and watched 6 different people walk out of the gym looking like they didn't want to come back. He sat outside on the curb in the dark, sipping from a plastic water bottle. His hands were raw from the mop handle. This wasn't what he built. He pulled out his phone and messaged Chase. "Don't call, just tell Caleb I'm working night shift janitor for the next 2 weeks. I want to see how things run." Chase messaged back, "You serious?" Elias didn't reply. He looked back at the gym windows, where the lights were shutting off one by one. Something was broken here, and he was going to fix it from the floor up. Elias arrived 2 hours before opening the next morning, just as the sun broke over the strip mall parking lot. The gym's lights were still off, but the side door opened with a keycard issued by the cleaning contractor. Inside, the air was still heavy from the night before rubber mats, metallic sweat, and something faintly sour near the back hallway. He grabbed a fresh mop, but today, his mind wasn't on the floors. By now, he knew what he needed to watch: the manager who hadn't emerged from his office once, the trainer who used humiliation as a training method, and the woman who somehow kept her composure in a place that seemed to reward indifference. He wasn't ready to blow his cover yet. First, he had to understand the depth of the rot. At 6, the front lights flickered on. The first to enter was a man in his 40s with a noticeable limp and a duffel bag slung over his shoulder. He walked slowly toward the cardio area, shoulders tense. Elias recognized the look: someone trying to rebuild something, maybe after surgery, maybe after too many years away. Either way, the man didn't make eye contact with the staff. No one greeted him. A few minutes later, Rowan arrived. She walked straight through the gym without stopping at the desk. As she passed Elias, she gave a quiet "morning," then headed to the back where the free weights were. Brett came in half an hour later, tossing his gym bag onto the front desk in front of Jenna, who barely looked up. "Where's Caleb?" he asked. "Still in his office," she mumbled. "He's probably watching TikToks again. Whatever." He grabbed a protein bar from the display rack and turned to Elias. "Hey, mop guy, do me a favor, don't get water near the squat racks. Last thing I need is someone busting their ass and crying to corporate." Elias gave a tight nod and kept wiping down the hallway. Brett walked off before he could respond. By mid-morning, the gym was half full. A group training session was starting near the back wall, and Rowan was organizing equipment. Elias leaned on his mop handle and watched closely. "All right, let's go light to start," Rowan said. "Form first, weight second, always." The group followed her lead: 5 people, all shapes and ages. She moved between them, adjusting form with quiet professionalism. When one woman hesitated with the resistance band, Rowan crouched next to her. "Try this grip instead. Wrist strain doesn't mean you're doing it wrong, it means we need to adjust." The woman gave her a grateful glance and nodded. On the opposite end of the room, Brett had started a one-on-one session with a teenage boy. Elias couldn't hear much over the music, but the trainer's posture said plenty: arms crossed, jaw tight, shoulders squared, like he was preparing for a confrontation. 15 minutes later, the kid dropped a barbell too loudly. It clanged against the mat, bounced slightly. Brett didn't even glance around before raising his voice. "What the hell was that? You trying to wreck the floor or just prove you're not ready to be here?" The boy's face flushed. He reached for the weights again, hands shaking, but Brett stopped him. "Don't bother, you're not listening. Take 5, get your head straight." He walked off, leaving the kid standing there, frozen. Elias set down his mop and walked over to the area slowly, as if checking for a spill. He paused near the boy. "You okay?" he asked under his breath. The kid nodded quickly, eyes on the floor. Elias didn't push. He just picked up a discarded towel and moved on, but he didn't miss the way Rowan glanced over, eyebrows pulled tight. Later that afternoon, Caleb finally emerged from his office. He was tall, mid-30s, with hair slicked back and a tablet in hand. He didn't acknowledge anyone as he crossed the gym, but he paused in front of Rowan. "You're still here?" he asked, tapping at the screen. "My shift ends at 4, she replied. "It's 3:30. "You've got 2 group sessions today. Who's covering the front desk while Jenna's on break?" Rowan hesitated. "I'm not trained for the desk." Caleb sighed. "Everyone here needs to be flexible, Rowan. We're short-staffed, so if something needs doing, you do it. That's how it works." "I'm happy to help," she said carefully, "but I'm not authorized for member accounts." "Then learn, fast." He walked off without waiting for a reply. Elias watched the exchange while wiping down a nearby bench. He didn't need to hear more. Caleb wasn't managing, he was delegating chaos. By 5, the gym was packed. Music blasted again, louder than necessary. Elias noticed the volume knob behind the front desk and turned it down slightly while Jenna was in the restroom. A minute later, Brett turned it back up and shot him a look. "Not your job, man. Stick to the mop." Elias nodded and returned to the back hallway, but not before catching the discomfort ripple through a few nearby members. One woman near the treadmills rubbed her ears and shook her head. Nobody asked what she needed. That evening, as Elias emptied garbage in the staff break room, he overheard Caleb on the phone. "No, I'm not letting her pick the schedule. She wants weekends off, she can find another job. I don't care if she's the most liked trainer we've got." Pause. "Because this isn't a charity. People get paid to work. If they don't want to, replace them." He hung up and walked out. Elias sat down on a plastic chair, heart pounding. That wasn't about Rowan, it was about control. Caleb was using burnout as a filter. Push people until they cracked, then blame them when they left. At 9, Elias was restocking paper towels when a young woman walked in, hesitant. She held a guest pass and looked around like she wasn't sure where to go. Jenna didn't look up. "Can someone help me?" the woman asked softly. Jenna tapped her nails on the counter. "Scan the barcode, then just go in." "I've never been here before. I don't know where anything is." "Then figure it out. It's not complicated." Elias stepped forward. "I can show you," he said gently. The woman blinked in surprise, then nodded. He led her through the gym, showing her where the lockers were, how to adjust the seat on the stationary bike, where to refill her water bottle. "Thanks," she said quietly, almost turned around and left. Elias gave a small nod. "Glad you didn't." After she started her warm-up, he turned and saw Rowan watching from across the room. She gave him a half smile, tired but genuine. Just before closing, Brett cornered Elias near the equipment room. "You know, for a janitor, you're way too interested in everyone else's business." Elias met his stare, just trying to help out where it can. Brett stepped closer. "This isn't a place for helpers, it's a place for winners. Either get that or get gone." Elias didn't flinch. "Message received." He waited until Brett walked away, then pulled out his phone and typed a note with 2 names. Caleb, Brett. Tomorrow, everything would change. Elias showed up before sunrise again. The air in the parking lot was cool, the streetlights still buzzing overhead. He sat in his car for a few minutes, watching the building in silence. Inside, the lights were off, but he knew the same problems were waiting. The culture at Southside hadn't slipped, it had rotted, and today it would come to a head. He stepped inside through the service entrance, grabbed the cleaning cart, and started in on the bathrooms. The mirror above the sink still had streaks from the night before, but not from neglect. He'd left them that way on purpose. He wanted to see if anyone else would notice. No one had. At 7, the gym doors opened. Jenna arrived first, headphones in, eyes glued to her phone. She walked past him without a glance and dropped her bag behind the counter. Elias gave her space. He wasn't interested in another silent dismissal. Not today. Rowan came in next, her shoulders visibly tight, a gym-branded hoodie slung over one arm. She walked straight to the trainer's office, poked her head in, and then stepped back out, eyes narrowing. She caught sight of Elias near the hallway. "You seen Caleb?" she asked. He shook his head. "He was supposed to meet with me this morning. I requested a schedule review last week. He agreed to talk at 7 sharp. Elias checked the clock. It was 7:12. Rowan exhaled through her nose and stepped away, muttering something under her breath. At 8:30, Brett arrived, later than usual. He was on a call, speaking loudly as he walked through the gym. "No, I don't care what their BMI is if they're not pushing hard enough. They're wasting my time," he said. Yeah. Told her I don't do hand-holding." He ended the call as he reached the front desk. Jenna looked up briefly. "You're late." Brett grunted. "Had to stop by the supplement shop. Got a new pre-workout I'm trying." Elias was wiping down a bench nearby and caught the tail end of it. Brett looked over, then leaned close to Jenna. "What's with him always hovering around the members? You'd think he's running a tour or something." "Maybe he's just bored," she said, not laughing. "Maybe he's in the wrong job," Brett added. Elias didn't react. He was done pretending to be invisible. By 10, the gym was at half capacity. A few regulars worked quietly in the corner, while a group of new members clustered awkwardly near the stretching area. Rowan walked over to greet them, clipboard in hand, while Brett continued pacing the free weights. An older man with a prosthetic leg entered through the front door, walking with a slow, deliberate gait. Elias noticed Jenna glance up, then immediately turn her attention to her nails. The man approached the counter. "Excuse me, I'm here for the adaptive training consult. I scheduled it last week." Jenna didn't look up. "Name?" "Raymond Cates." She tapped on the screen lazily, then sighed. "I don't see anything under that name." "I got a confirmation email." "Well, I don't have it here. You can wait, I guess." He stood there unsure. Rowan, overhearing, walked over. "I've got the adaptive files," she said. "Raymond Wright, you're with me, come on in." He smiled, relieved. As they walked past, Elias turned to Jenna. "You didn't even check the calendar." She didn't answer. He leaned closer. "Why are you working this desk if you don't want to help people?" She looked up finally, eyes tired. "Because no one else will. Asked to switch to back office weeks ago. Chase said no, said I'm too familiar to move now." Elias nodded once. That was all he needed to hear. At noon, Caleb finally emerged from his office, yawning. Coffee mug in hand, he wandered toward the cardio machines, glancing at a few screens. "Why are we playing this playlist again?" he asked no one in particular. "It's depressing. Put on something with tempo." He didn't wait for a response before heading toward the break room. Elias followed. Inside, Caleb leaned against the counter and scrolled his tablet. Elias stepped in and closed the door behind him. "I've been watching how you run this place." Caleb looked up confused. "You're the cleaner." "Not quite." Elias reached into his jumpsuit pocket and pulled out his ID, his real one. He held it up. "Elias Zimmerman, founder, CEO." Caleb blinked, then laughed once, unsure. "This some kind of joke?" Elias didn't smile. "Do I look like I'm joking?" Caleb's face changed. The color drained slowly. He looked down at the ID again, then back up. "I didn't know you were coming." "No," Elias said, "you didn't. That's why I saw everything exactly the way a member would." He stepped forward. "I saw how you ignored your trainers, failed to hold staff accountable, and created a culture where the loudest voice wins, no matter how toxic." Caleb opened his mouth, but Elias raised a hand. Stop, I'm not interested in excuses. You've had months to fix this. You didn't. I didn't know things were that bad, Caleb said quickly. If someone had told me. They did. Rowan asked for schedule reviews. Jenna asked to be transferred. Members walked out mid-session. You ignored it all. Caleb straightened. Look, I can fix this. I'll retrain the staff. I'll tighten up the front desk. Give me a month. You've had more than that. You're done. Elias opened the break room door. Pack your things. You're no longer employed here. Caleb didn't argue. He grabbed his tablet and walked out head low. Elias stepped onto the gym floor. Rowan was finishing a session with Raymond, both of them smiling. He walked over. Rowan, can I speak with you for a moment? She nodded and followed him toward the trainer's office. He closed the door behind them. I owe you an apology. You've been holding this place together while everyone else stood still. She looked confused. I'm not sure I understand. Elias removed his glasses and ran a hand through his hair. I'm not Leo. I'm Elias Zimmerman, owner of the company. She stared at him. You've got to be kidding. I wish I were, but I needed to see the truth. This location has problems, deep ones, and you've been one of the only people doing the job right. Rowan sat down slowly, trying to process. Are you firing people? Yes, Caleb's already gone. Brett is next. Her eyes widened slightly. He's been here for years. And he's abused that time. I watched him bully, humiliate, and undermine members. That's not training, it's control. I won't allow it. Rowan nodded slowly. Elias leaned forward. I want you to stay. I want you to take over as interim manager until we can get someone permanent. She hesitated. That's a lot. You've already been doing it. This time, you'll have the authority and the support. Rowan looked down at her hands, then back up. Okay, but we'll need more staff. One person can't run the front desk and coach classes. You'll get what you need, starting this week. Outside the office, Elias walked over to Brett, who was adjusting weights near the cable machines. We need to talk, Elias said. Brett turned annoyed. Can it wait? I've got a session. No, it can't. I've seen how you treat members, the insults, the intimidation, the disregard for safety. Brett scoffed. This is a gym, not a therapy circle. People come here to get results. And they leave because of you, Elias said sharply. You're done here, gather your things. Brett's jaw clenched. You can't be serious. I'm not debating this. Brett stared at him, then looked around. No one backed him up. He grabbed his bag and walked out. Elias turned back to the floor. Jenna was standing near the desk, watching everything. He walked over. You're not in trouble, he said. I figured I might be, she replied quietly. You've been stuck in a job you didn't ask for. That ends now. We're hiring 2 new front desk staff starting next week. You'll move to backend admin if you want it. She blinked, seriously. You've earned it. Elias looked around the room. The energy felt different already, not fixed but shifting. He stepped onto the floor and addressed the staff and members nearby. As of today, this location is under new management. We're making changes, real ones. If you've been waiting for someone to listen, we are now. He paused, then added, Thank you for showing up, even when this place didn't deserve it. The room was quiet. Then Rowan stepped forward, nodded once, and turned back to her members. Elias picked up a towel and started wiping down a machine again. He wasn't above the work, and now, finally, the work was worth doing. 2 weeks had passed since Elias lifted the veil. The Southside gym still smelled like rubber mats and protein powder, but the atmosphere had changed. Not dramatically, not like flipping a switch, but in the subtle, slow way a cracked foundation begins to settle after a storm. The music was turned down to a level where people could actually talk. The front desk had a second staffer now, a college student named Lena who'd previously worked at another location. She was still learning the ropes, but she smiled when people walked in, asked names, and met. Rowan had stepped into the interim manager role with the caution of someone who had seen too many promises fall flat. She hadn't reorganized everything in one swoop. Instead, she started holding 10-minute huddles at the beginning of each shift. Nothing formal, just space for people to say what wasn't working and what they needed help with. For the first few days, no one said much. By the second week, someone asked if they could adjust the stretching area layout to avoid bottlenecks. Elias watched. He'd been coming in 4 days a week now. Not as a janitor, not as a CEO in a suit, but as a present someone who wiped down machines, refilled the paper towel dispensers, and stepped in where needed. Not because he was trying to prove a point anymore, but because he finally understood what he'd forgotten over the years. Showing up mattered. That morning, Elias stopped by the staff break room with a box of bagels and a printed schedule. He placed the printout on the corkboard and stepped back as Rowan walked in, pulling her hair into a bun. "Bagels?" she asked, eyebrows raised. "Don't get used to it," Elias said. "They were a bribe. I want to talk to you about something." She picked up a plain one, tore off a piece, and waited. "There's a trainer at our Midtown location, veteran, solid track record. Her contract's up, and she's looking to transfer. Full-time. She's asking for weekends off, but she's willing to pick up 2 evening shifts." Rowan chewed quietly. "You offering her Southside?" "I'm asking if you want her." Rowan glanced at the schedule on the wall. "We're still short coverage on Thursdays. If she can take that, I'll make it work." "She can. I'll have her start next week." Rowan nodded. "Thanks." Elias leaned against the wall, arms folded. "You're handling this well. Better than I did, honestly." "You're giving me the space to," she said simply. "That's the difference." Out on the gym floor, Elias noticed Raymond, the man with the prosthetic leg, walking confidently toward the treadmill row. He'd only been using the recumbent bike when he first joined, but now he was adjusting the incline settings like he owned the place. Elias caught his eye and gave a nod. Raymond nodded back, then focused in. Later that afternoon, Elias watched Lena at the front desk as a man in his 50s approached with a hesitant gait and a guest pass. "First time here?" she asked, standing up instead of staying seated. "Yeah, been thinking about it for a while. My daughter finally convinced me to stop researching and just show up." Lena grinned. "Smart daughter. I'll walk you through if that's all right." The man looked surprised. "Sure, that'd be great." As they disappeared toward the locker rooms, Rowan joined Elias near the stretching mats. "Never thought I'd see this place get quiet again," she said. "It's not quiet," Elias replied. "It's steady, there's a difference." She nodded once, then tilted her head. "You staying involved after the new manager comes in?" "I'll be around. Not every day, I've got other locations to check, but I'll never disappear again." Rowan didn't say anything, but the silence felt like agreement. Just after dusk, as the evening crowd thinned, Elias stepped into the office to review the updated equipment maintenance logs. One of the trainers, a younger guy named Marcel who had been hired just over a week ago, knocked softly. "Hey, got a second?" Elias looked up. "Of course." Marcel stepped in. "I wanted to mention something. Not a complaint, just something I think we could do better." Elias motioned for him to sit. "There's a member who comes in around 6. She's real quiet, keeps to herself, always uses the same elliptical. Tonight, I saw a couple guys laughing after she walked past. Not loud, but it wasn't right." Elias's face tightened. "Did you hear what they said?" "One of them called her a whale with headphones, the other laughed. She didn't hear it, I don't think, but I did." Did you say anything? I told them that kind of talk doesn't belong here. They brushed it off, said they were just joking. Elias stood, point them out now. 10 minutes later, 2 men in their 20s stood near the leg press machines. Elias walked up, calm but direct. You're both done here, leave. One of them blinked. What, why? You disrespected a member. That's not tolerated in this facility, or any of mine. It was a joke. No, it was cruelty. Go. They left without another word, eyes down. Elias turned to Marcel. Thank you for speaking up. That's what leadership looks like. Marcel nodded once, then returned to training. That night, Elias stayed after closing. The last member left around 10, and the lights dimmed across the floor. He sat in the office alone, staring at the whiteboard where Rowan had scrawled notes for the week ahead. Equipment rotation. Staff check-ins, member feedback cards. A knock came at the door. Rowan stepped in with her jacket half-zipped. You're still here. Didn't realize the time. She leaned against the doorframe. It's working. Elias nodded. Because of people like you. She hesitated. You ever think about opening another location? He looked up, already scouting, but I won't open it until I know Southside's solid. Rowan shifted her weight. Then, I guess we'd better keep it that way. She turned to leave, then paused. I almost quit a month ago. I stayed because I thought maybe, just maybe someone would notice how bad it had gotten. Elias stood. I'm glad you stayed, and I noticed. Too late maybe, but I won't miss it again. She nodded, then walked out, leaving the door swinging gently behind her. Elias turned off the office light, locked up, and stepped into the parking lot. The gym behind him glowed faintly through its tinted windows. Not just a building anymore. A place worth protecting. He didn't need to pretend to be someone else anymore. He just had to keep showing up, listening, and making sure that no one who walked in that door was made to feel small. This wasn't about being undercover anymore. It was about finally being present.